Now, the balance sheet, they ask sections of it like you'll see now, but every single section where you add up the blocks, it's a lot of work with marks. And I want you to make sure that you revise this part very well. Okay, so balance sheets, please pay more attention to it. Make sure you understand the different ways it can be asked when, for example, ratios are given, let's say the current ratio, which then helps you to complete that balance sheet. So make sure you find enough of that and practice it very well. Okay, let's go on to lesson number 3. Balance sheet calculations. Now, that's the only way I could fit a full balance sheet on one slide, but it shows you nicely that the top section would be your total assets and that the bottom section will be your equity and liabilities. This is a very basic way of showing how you can, almost like a puzzle, complete a balance sheet. But as I have said before, format first. If we go from the top, obviously fixed assets. Below that, financial assets. I have maybe left out something there. I'm just going to check quickly. That should be the fixed deposit at Star Bank. So let me show you with a pointer. When I say financial assets, I over there should have first said fixed deposit and then Star Bank. Okay. Next, current assets, inventory, trade and other receivables, cash and cash equivalents. On the right-hand side, which would be the bottom of my balance sheet, that would be ordinary share capital or just share capital. And here, the mortgage loan was given, so down here is trade and other payables. It's also numbered here, number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I just did that to remind you that there are 9 notes in total, where number 1 and 2 obviously was with the income statement as interest income and interest expense. Okay, now I did it in the order I find logical. You can see if it's logical for you as well. The first thing I notice here, please follow the laser pointer, the red dot. If that is 6.8 million, then the total assets are 6.8 million rand in value. You can see immediately above that I can work out 1820 minus the 2 inside the block, and now I have the receivables. You have the same here. You have only 1 missing inside the block, so take the total at the top, minus the 4980 minus the 160, and as easy as that, you filled in this part. If we go over here on this side, you can obviously see that trade and other payables will be next. But now, there's a reason why mortgage loan is given like that. Please remember in the previous video, we have had the loan as we have it in our books, but then the interest that the bank calculated still had to be capitalized, so that would be a plus. And then we minus the short-term part and took it to the current liability block. So always look out for changes to the loan. In this case, you will see at the bottom, I thought I had an arrow there. So I'll just show you first if I just reverse that quickly. Down here, we have the current portion of the loan, 148. If it's already here at the bottom, it must have come from up there. That's why I usually draw an arrow to explain. So if it was taken down here, it was minus there first, which shows you that the mortgage loan long-term part is 592. And then we can take the 6.8 million minus the current liability block minus the non-current liability block to get the shareholders' equity. And if this top block, which is shareholders' equity, is 5 million, minus that amount, I can get the final amount. Okay, as I said, this is a very basic form of, but very nice to go over your format and see how the balance sheet fits together. But I can now give you ratios. I can give you, if I look at shareholders' equity, I can give you the NAV ratio, net asset value, and then you can solve that. As I said before, if we go here to assets, the current assets to the current liabilities would be 1,820,000 divided by 921,800. If you are struggling to solve inventory, I can give you the asset test ratio, and so on and so on. So please practice those ones, which you'll find in the national papers. Activity 7 is going to investigate notes. Now, the trial balance given to you looks like I have here on this slide. You can clearly see our financial year end is 28 February 2019. If there are question marks, it's because they either don't need that or they want you to work it out later. I've just made bank bold because always I first look at bank to see if it's going to be a current asset or a current liability. In this case, it's positive and will fall under cash and cash equivalents. When you see specifically these accounts, and we can add to these three maybe medical aid and UIF, then I guess they will ask the payable note because they go there and it makes the payable note a bit longer and it will count more marks. Let's look at fixed assets again quickly. They are testing you here on your knowledge of the R1 residual value. They don't have to say this. They helped you here by saying some equipment is old and will have to be replaced soon. So that's like a warning. You should anyway know that you must look out for this. And what does it mean if you maybe haven't heard of it or forgot? Residual value is when an asset is completely written off, but you're still using it. And then the carrying value of such an asset will be specified as R1. So I'm just going to show you that if we want to work out, as you can see, for example, the equipment, 380,000 at 15%, obviously, as you can see, it's the cost price method, you will want to write off 57,000 Rand of depreciation. But if you see in the note I'll show you now, the carrying value is only 55,000. So you cannot write off more than the value. The maximum in this case would be 54,999, which leaves me with only a R1 residual value. Let's look at the note. I have completed it just to indicate that the balances in the trial balance given as 380 and 325, please notice I put it in red, there are 4 lines with brackets. That gives me 55,000. And therefore, I make sure that I write off only 54,999, there's the block total. And if I take this off from the 55, it's worth R1. And now we are done depreciating this equipment. And 380 stays 380 if you haven't bought or sold. And the 325 plus 54,999 gives me 379,111. So this just explains again or revises residual value. Here's the share capital note again. We've already done it once or twice now in the previous videos. We want the information as given under adjustment number 1. Authorized share capital. There we go. Then it says 500,000 shares in issue on the first day of the year, and they give me the R1.15. So there we go. They then say that a further 500,000 shares were issued, and they give me the value. That's very easy. And I hope you remember that at this point, because that's R1.15 and this is R1.75, that we have a new average issue price. So if we're going to repurchase now, which we probably are, I have to work out the new average price, which is always the total in rand value now and the total number at the bottom. Although we paid R2, we don't have R2 available. We only have, like I said, these two amounts on the right, divided by the number of shares on the left, and now the new average is R1.25, even though we pay R2. So I can put in the 312,000 shares on the left. I can put in, you can see that, R1.25, the repurchase available, which is the average, and it gives me 90,000 Rand, and I can then easily complete the note. I can't remember if I did. Yes, I did. I should have the Rand value in every single line. And I will myself, it might not be taught like that, but I will divide this by 2,688,000 to make sure that I understand that repurchase does not change the average issue price, but the issue changes the average price, and I've just repeated it there, so please read that. And that should help you with completing this note. The trade and other payable note, just to show you there, we can have the following: trade creditors, which is my creditors control, accrued expenses, income received in advance, shareholders for dividends, SARS, that one, SARS pay as you earn, pension fund. There's a typo. Ignore the W, please. It's just UIF and then medical aid. So this note is often asked, this one and receivables, as you should know by now. The balance sheet and notes. You'll see there in red would be a few of the adjustments that I thought I would explain. There was an error in the info, which I think I must just explain. I also said that I will explain on paper or folio. Let's have a look here. I want you to, on your page, I think this is activity 8. Yes. Activity 8, I want you to go there to number 4. I think it is, let me just see, page 11. I've just cut it shorter for purpose of the videos. There, the third bullet under number 4 says the provision for bad debts must increase by, no, sorry, it's not that one. It's the second bullet. A debtor owing 6,500 was declared insolvent. Please replace the 6,500 by 5,500. Okay, and I'll show you on the slide now. I want to do this bullet. I'm not going to do all of them. It's the rent one. We did rent before, but this one I'll just read it to you because it's not on the slide. The rent, and then I'll do it here where you can see better. The rent for February was not received yet, and the rent went up by 15% on 1 November. So even though this is small, I'll repeat the info here on the calculation. Now, I've already drawn my timeline. For rent, you definitely need it. My year ended February 19, so it started there, and that's the increase. So on the increase date, I will write plus 15%. If they say February has not been received, I'll do this. I'll also know it's then going to be an accrued income. And now I count the months. I always count the short part first, so I'll go, because it's the 1st of November, I'll go November, December, January, February, but I haven't received February. So that part is 3. The 1 wasn't received. 3, 1, that's 4 and 8. But of course, we always double check. So let's count quickly. March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October. Do not count November because it's the 1st of November, and that's 8. So now I know I'm right. How do we do this? Everyone has their own way. I can only explain it to you the way I understand it. If they don't give you the rent amount in the past or in the first part of the year, you go 8x because it was unknown, plus I only received 3, not 4, 3. Now what happens to x if it goes up by 15%? It becomes 1, comma what? 1x is obviously the same as x. What is 15% extra? It's comma 1, 5x. And this would be then equal to, there's more space on this side, so I'm just going to write it on this side. The amount on the trial balance, let me just find that. So sorry, just give me a second. The rent income was 80150. And now I've just got to multiply. So this would be 8x plus that times that will be 3,45x, which is equal to 11,45x. And then to solve x, but don't forget, x is the old rent amount. You will just take your 80150 and divide it by 11.45. If you're going to get cents now, you must know that you're wrong. We always work this out in a round number, like 7,000 Rand. But don't stop now. This is the old rent. We want February. Therefore, February will be, and do it in any way you want, 7,000 times 15% and add it on. I'm just going to say 7,000 times an extra 15% or 1.15. And if this helps at all, remember, this is 1 or x. 115 over 100 is obviously 15% extra. And that is where I get my 1,15x. If rent goes up by 8%, what would I then say? I would say 1,08x. So remember that. Okay, 7,000 times 1.15, I get 8,050 Rand. I think I'm just going to explain that one and just talk about the others. So if we go back to our slide, that explains where the red dot is, or the laser, the 8050, which is obviously accrued income. This 14,000 would be, and remember we've done SARS now in every video, the 364,000 balance paid minus the 350,000 income tax. And the income tax, if I can just show you my calculation, if you can see my calculator, they give me on the info sheet the profit before tax as 1,250,000 Rand, and they say 28% this time, times 28%. So that's where I got my, no, something's wrong. Hang on. Did I do something wrong now? 364, 350, or am I again, like I sometimes do, on the wrong exercise? I just want to check this, and then I can always at the end correct it. Income tax 28%, before tax 1,250 times 28%. Okay, wrong calculation, my mistake. So it's 350. And here it says in the previous page, all these pages, let me just find it, hang on. They say here, I have paid 364. So I have paid 364, but I should have paid 350. If we go back to the slide, if I've paid 364, but I should have paid 350, I've overpaid by 14,000, and now it's a receivable. Just want to remind you that this 5,500 is the correction where the the questions gave us the bad debts as 6,500. This is the correct amount. Okay. Let's continue. Here's the second half of the balance sheet. This is obviously the whole second half. And if you go to the loan, you might remember I told you before that the loan, we must expect this. Normally, not always, that there will be interest capitalized, payments made during the year, which is a minus, and next year's 125,000 rand. But I have given you the information here. They will not show this one where the cursor is or the laser as a bracket, but you have to know a payment would be a bracket. So that explains the 750. And it explains the 192,300. If you then say, well, what is missing here? It will be the interest. And if we do that calculation, you'll see 750 minus 192,300. There is a 57,300 interest missing. And there's your short-term loan, 125. Oh, yes, I did show you the calculation. In your own time, please go over this to see how I got the 57,300. And there I drew the arrow, which I usually do to make sure you all understand that if we take the amount out here, it goes to short-term loan. I think we will quickly take the time to do share capital once again. So I'm going to put all of that for you, again on a paper to see it. And then this video is, I think, just about done. Remember, if you need a break, pause the video, quickly get some fresh air and lots of water. Okay. I told you before that if you are going to do the share capital note and do as many as you can find and do it with the retained income, please. It's like a puzzle with 8 pieces. There we go. On the left, the number of shares. On the right, the rand value. And in the middle, although the textbook does not say so, please work out average issue price in every single line. Now, if you go to your information, which when you go back to the video or the slide, you'll find on the slide, I've just taken it from here. So sorry, it's on the slide that was just shown to you, but it's on this page 10, number B. So I'm just using my paper to do this with you quickly. We say there were 600,000 shares issued at the beginning. They give us the 4. Multiply. That gives me 2.4 million rand. Next they say additional shares, 300,000 additional shares issued at 5.50 rand. Multiply. I get 1,650,000 rand. What happens next? Because of this, we get a new average issue price. It's no longer 4 rand. So we do this. Add these two, 2.4 million rand plus 1,650,000 divided by the number of shares. You can clearly see it's now 900,000. Let's do that calculation. 2.4 million plus 1,650,000 equals, divide by 900,000. So I know, because I've done this so many times, that the answer must be between 4 rand and 5.50 rand. But because there's more of these ones than of these ones, the answer will be closer to 4 rand, and if not, I've made a mistake. Yes, I get an answer of 4.50 rand. You can see it makes sense. It's between the two and it's closer to that one. And now I'm ready for what they might say next. And now they say, on 28 February, shares were bought back at 450,000 rand. They don't tell you anything about the 4.50 rand. They say total price paid for 75,000 shares, and that gives you, for 50,000 rand divided by 75,000 shares, you're supposed to now work out that the amount paid per share is 6 rand. So what does that then mean? Remember, go over the previous videos again, split the payment up. This is the amount that goes to bank. I only have 4.50 rand available in share capital. The rest, which is obviously therefore 1.50 rand, will have to come from retained income. But what I use here is bought back brackets, 75,000 shares. Now that I know I must use the 4.50 rand, I can write down 337,500. Do not forget the brackets, and then you can get your answer. Okay, that's 900 minus 75. This will be 825,000 shares at the end. This, you calculate the values. Remember again, finish your questions, because even if you make a mistake here, we can work with your finished answer. If there's nothing, we can't work with. Why does it feel that I made an adding error? We'll check quickly. How will I know if this is right? I will always fill in each line's rand value. And if I said before in the red circle that issue changes the average, issue changes the average, then repurchase does not change it. Meaning, if I made no mistake, it stays after repurchase on the same value. I have to check this. I've still got that on my calculator. I divide by 825,000 rand, thank goodness, 4.50 rand. On that point, a small thing. It says 4,5. You don't write 4,5 now. You write 4,50 because I'm working with money. Okay, just a small thing. Let's go on here. The end. I forgot we're at the end. Please read that again, and let's see, what can I say to end of this video number 3? I already said balance sheet is my favorite. Ask yourself, I'm sure you can only say it's your favorite if you've done it many times and you can done it perfectly well. If any one of you, which might be the majority of you, do not feel comfortable with a balance sheet, sit down and do that. Don't even attempt, which will be lesson number 5, the cash flow statement and the analysis before you've done at least 10 balance sheets. But first, learn the format. I'll see you in the next lesson.